My name is Leela Rhodes, and I'll be your moderator today. Thank you so much for joining us here at NetCom Learning, a market leader in promoting lifelong learning, training, and talent development solutions. We are very excited to host today's webinar, Tips and Tricks to Get More Out of Microsoft SQL and Relational Database. Presenting today's topic is Edgar Machado. And Edgar has over 18 years of experience as technical software instructor and Microsoft certified trainer. He works as a technical software instructor for global software training companies, including the setup, configuration, and delivery of Microsoft classes. His skills and training is backed up by his work in the field as a network administrator, SQL server, database administrator, and as a developer for internal networks. Please bear in mind that this is an overview of a very robust topic, and we do offer a collection of technical and business courses that can be tailored towards the specific requirements that you have. And if you are interested in a further discussion about that, you can make an appointment with our learning consultants through our website at www.netcomlearning.com at any time. Today's session is also being recorded, so you will get free access to that in the next 24 hours via email. NetCom Learning helps customers build an innovative learning organization by achieving a smarter workforce, adapting to change, and driving growth. And we do this with a broad catalog of offerings, developing customized learning plans, and our global delivery capabilities. Since 1998, we have been empowering organizations with our managed learning services to help them reach optimal performance results and address challenges. And we have 9 practice areas in which we specialize, and they encompass people, process, and technology training. Today's presentation is from the Data and AI practice area. NetCom Learning offers a comprehensive training portfolio for data and AI courses, and our upcoming classes include various trainings on databases on Microsoft Azure, analyzing data with Power BI, data engineering on Microsoft Azure Associate, and many more. Also, private training to teams is available, and those learning plans can be customized to the specific needs of that audience. You can also access a variety of data and AI marketing assets, such as the free 1-hour training, free on-demand training, and blog by clicking on the available webinar handout. And also these offerings can be found with a simple search on our website at www.netcomlearning.com. In this webinar, you will learn what the tables are and how to write basic select statements. The webinar will also help you learn how to use wildcard characters for pattern matching and sort query results, and many more. Now, I just want to give you a quick overview of the logistics before we do get started today. To start with, you have the option to adjust the window size to your liking. You can simply hit the escape key and find the zoom button on the top left corner of your GoToWebinar viewer. Everyone has been muted except for our presenters, but you can feel free to submit any questions you have for the presenters in the questions panel, and we will address them at the end of the session today. Also, to get the best out of today's session, we've included the slides, courses we've talked about, and marketing assets in the handout section of your GoToWebinar viewer. And you can refer to those at any time to get a better understanding of the topic. And now I am going to go ahead and pass the time over to Edgar. Edgar, sorry, I am a little tongue-tied today to present today's topic. And you should be able to share your screen now. There you go. Are you there?
I am here. Howdy,
wonderful. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello, folks. My name is Edgar. I'm going to go take over this part of the presentation. I want to share with you just some basic foundational aspects of working with SQL. So if you're new to SQL and you're curious what it is and what it does for you and why you want to learn about it, this presentation is going to give you some solid foundational knowledge to understand what we're talking about here. First thing we'll talk about is what is a table. Then we'll talk about what is a structured query language. Then I'll show you how to write a basic select statement. A basic select statement says, go find this data and show it to me. If you're going to be working with reports, such as SQL Server reporting services, you want to show data, you need a select statement. If you're going to be working with Microsoft Power BI and you want to analyze data and show beautiful pie charts and column charts and scatter charts, you need a select statement so you can retrieve data. We're also going to show you how we can modify data by using inserts, updates, and delete statements. Think of an order management system or a project management system. We need to change the status of a project to completed, or we need to go ahead and delete an order that was placed. So we need to be able to manipulate our data. We're also going to show you how to join data from multiple tables. It'd be nice if all your data existed in a single table, but it doesn't. Relational databases are made up of multiple tables, so the data is going to be scattered in multiple tables. And knowing how to bring those tables together is very important. Probably one of the most important things to do in SQL is be able to write queries that join data together. I'm also going to show you how you can search for data if you don't know exactly what you're looking for by using wildcards. That wildcards give us the opportunity to do something called fuzzy logic, where we're just trying to match a pattern as opposed to looking for something very specific. And then we'll take a Q&A a little bit later. So let's start with what a table is. Database needs to store data. And in order to store data, we have to store data inside a table. The table is the foundational object that you have inside a database. So relational databases store data in one or more tables. And it's very common for databases to have many tables. A table is defined by a collection of columns. They can be identified by name, such as first name, last name, email address, and so on. Once a table is created, they store rows. Initially, tables are empty, but we can start inserting data into these tables, and eventually these tables can store dozens, hundreds, thousands, or even millions of data rows. There's no limit to the amount of data that tables inside Microsoft SQL Server can store. Often when a table is created, it's created to represent a business entity or a business object. So I would create a table to represent my employees, another table to represent my customers, another table to represent my orders and my order details. Long before a developer sits down and builds a table, they actually logically design it, much like an architect would design a building using a blueprint. They figure out what the names would need to be, what the columns need to be, and other aspects of the database. Each row inside a table represents a unique entity. One row for every product, one row for every order, one row for every student, one row for every customer. The rows inside the table, they don't have to be stored in any particular order. In reality, the way that data gets entered into the table is just the way we encounter it in nature. When people place an order, the order gets added to the table. When we add projects as a company, we simply add projects to our project table. So data is entered into the table using some type of graphical interface. The end user would probably sit at the desk and use a web interface. Think about the last time you purchased something on Amazon. When you finish that transaction, a record was entered into a table somewhere in a database. Behind the scenes, this is what the tables look like. So a relational database is called a relational database because it's made up of tables. You can see my customer table, my order detail table, and my product table. And those lines that you see between these tables simply represent the relationships. So I can see that my customers table is related to orders. My order table is related to order details. My order detail table is related to products. This type of diagram is very useful to help you figuring out how your data is laid out. And more importantly, if I wanted to write a query that pulled data from multiple tables, what fields I'd have to use to facilitate the relationship. What if you wanted to go ahead and retrieve data from a single table? So let's say we have a customers table, and I want to retrieve data from the customers table. Well, a simple way to do that is to simply write select asterisk from customers. It would look something like this. I get a query screen. I simply tell the system, I'd like to retrieve some data. So I'll type select. And I'm interested in retrieving all the columns. So I'll simply type an asterisk. Then I type the word from, and I simply type the name of my table. And after I type this query, I can go ahead and execute it, and I get a result set. This result set can then be used to populate a report. It can be used to analyze data inside a pie chart or a bar chart. We also have the opportunity to be very specific. What if you're not interested in all the columns? You just want to see some of the columns. Well, type the name of the column, separating it by a comma. It'll look something like this. I'll get rid of the asterisk, and I'll tell the system, give me the company name, comma, and give me the country where the customer is located. And so now I'm simply getting those columns. By restricting the columns to just those two columns, you can actually improve query performance. How does that work? Less disk I/O. The smaller the result set, the better the query performs. In addition to retrieving data, you might want to modify data. So we can easily insert data, we can update data, and we can delete data. So the first example shows we're going to insert a record into the shippers table. The shippers table has a couple of columns. Company name is going to be DHL, and the phone number is going to be 00000-000. Not a zero. The reason DHL and the phone number are inside single quotes is because they need to be treated as text, and the single quotes tells the database engine to treat them as text. If you want to modify the data, we use an update statement. You can see we're going to update shippers, and there's a column called phone, and we're going to change the value from all zeros to 800-123-1212. When you use the update statement, I'm going to use a where clause. If I don't use the where clause, I will update every record in the table. So I'm going to use a where clause to limit the modification to just the record or the company name is equal to DHL. Then you can see we can also delete a record. If I choose delete shippers, if I don't use a where clause, I'll delete every record in the table. That's probably not a good thing. So we can go ahead and limit the record that's going to be delimited by using company name is equal to DHL. Let's give this a shot and see how it works. So we'll come here and we'll tell the system, I'd like to do an insert. And the table that I want to do an insert into is shippers. There are two columns. There's a company name column and there's a phone column. You can see the IntelliSense is helping me write my query. Then I'm going to tell the system we're going to go ahead and do values. Values gives me the opportunity to identify what the value of the column is. So DHL is going to be the value of the company name column, and then I'll do a comma, and then I'll do a 000. This is my phone number. Then a close single quote, and I'll go ahead and run the query. And it tells me one record was affected. And if I write my select statement, and I query my shippers table, I can actually see the record that I just inserted. I'm going to highlight line 4 so that runs by itself, and you can see record 4 down here. I don't like the phone number. I'd like to change the phone number. So what we're going to do is we're going to do an update, and we're going to change the shippers table, and we're going to set the value in the column called phone. Now, SQL is not case sensitive, so whether I type in uppercase letters or lowercase letters, it doesn't matter. It's all user preference. So we're going to set the phone number to 800-000-0000. Oops, that's wrong. 123-1234. There we go. Now, I need to be very careful with the update statement. I don't want to modify the other 3 records. So let's use a where clause. And let's go ahead and limit the update to only the records where the company name is equal to DHL. And that way, I'm only going to touch one record. So when I run it, it says incorrect syntax. And so even though you get error messages, those error messages can be very helpful. And so you can see that I successfully modified this record. The phone number has now been set correctly. But you know what? This company decided no longer to do business with us. Okay, let's remove them from the table. So the way we're going to do that is just simply tell the system we're going to go ahead and delete that row. So we're going to delete from shippers. This right here is a complete statement. I could highlight and run this, but I don't want to, because if I did, I would delete every record in the table. And that might make some people mad at me. So what I'll do is I'll use a where clause. I'm just going to copy this where clause that I wrote here, and I'll use it down here. And I can go ahead and delete the record from the shippers table where the company name is DHL. And so when I query the table, you can see that I've gone through the cycle of adding a record, modifying the record, or removing a record. It's just that simple. Now, the end user is not going to be doing this. The people that are going to be writing SQL are going to be developers and administrators. End users are going to be using Windows interfaces or web interfaces. But developers and administrators do need to know how to work with SQL. Let's talk about a join. So a join is how we bring 2 tables together. Join uses 2 words, the join keyword and the on keyword. The join keyword indicates the tables we want to bring together, and the on keyword identifies the columns that are shared between those 2 tables. The names of the columns do not have to be spelled the same. It would be nice if they were spelled the same because it makes it easier, but they don't have to be spelled the same. So you can see an example here. We've got the customers table. And there's a column called customer ID. We got the orders table, and there's a column called customer ID. Thankfully, they're spelled the same. And what I want to do is I want to write a query that shows me the company name and country. These two columns come from customers. And I'd like to see the order ID and the order date. Those two columns come from the orders table. And you can see that the from clause shows customers join orders. So the join keyword identifies the tables to be joined. The on keyword identifies that customers.customer_ID is going to be equal to orders.customer_ID. So let's give this a shot and see if we can work this out. So we'll come here. I'm going to get a brand new query to get a blank screen. And we're simply going to type select. And the columns that I want will be company name, comma, and country. And I'm just going to go ahead and get the records from the customers tables first. So I'll just go ahead and write this, make sure we're connected to the correct database, and I can see that part of the query is working. Now I can add to it, and I can type join. And I'm going to join the customers table to the orders table. If I type the word join, the join keyword always travels in concert with the partner. The partner is the on keyword. So I need to tell the system that in the customers table, there's a column called customer ID. And that column facilitates a match with a column inside the orders table. And that is customer ID. And I can write this query and it works. I can now come up here and I can add some more columns. So in addition to the name of the company and the country they're located, I'd like to see the order ID. And I'd also like to go ahead and see the order date. And I can go ahead and execute this query. And then I can get really creative and I can say, you know what? But I'm really only interested in looking at the records for a very specific customer. So I can come here and say, let's take a look at the orders for one of our customers that's located in Germany. And that's their customer ID. So instead of having a big old result set of 830 rows, you get a smaller result set of 6 records. So I can see that I brought data together from 2 different tables. And this is very important because when you're creating reports, it's highly unlikely the data that you want to work with is in a single table. So knowing how to join data together is foundational to working with SQL. One last thing that I want to share you before I yield my time is how to do a fuzzy search. So let's come here and let's go ahead and get a brand new page, make sure we're connected to Northwind. Let's take a look at all the records that are in the customers table. And I'll run my query. What I'm interested in is I want to find all the records that start with the letter A. So I could do something like this, where company name, and if I do the equal sign means I'm looking for an exact match. So this query is not going to give me the result set that I want. So the first letter I'm looking for is the letter A. Then we can use this symbol right here, the % symbol. That means it's a wildcard. It means after the letter A, I don't care what comes after the letter A. And you'll notice that I don't get what I'm looking for because when I use the equal sign, that says I'm looking for exactly this. But I don't have any companies called a % symbol. But if I change this from the equal sign to the word like, I now invoke SQL Server's fuzzy logic, and I can now find records that share that pattern. I could also do something like this. Find all the records that somewhere in the name have the letters REST, like a restaurant. And you can see that I'm telling the system that I have a wildcard at the beginning, wildcard at the end. This means these letters can exist anywhere, beginning, middle, or end. And you can see that I now have these records, and they all have the letters REST somewhere in their name. This is called fuzzy logic, and there's a bunch of different things that we can do with wildcards. So if you don't know exactly what you're looking for, you can go ahead and make your search criteria a little bit more liberal by using these wildcards. And wildcards can also be used for numeric data as well. So that's all I got for you right now. I just wanted to share some basic tips and tricks about working with SQL. And hopefully, if you want to come back and learn more about it, got some administration courses as well as some data analysis courses that might pique your interest that we talked about later. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Now we are going to go ahead and take a moment to hear from Chitra. She is our product manager, and she's going to tell us a little bit more about some of the upcoming webinars and related courses to today's presentation. Chitra, I'm making you a presenter right now. You should be able to share. Are you with us?
Raj, are you able to hear me now?
Yes, I can see your Google screen.
Fantastic, cool. Thank you. I hope you had a wonderful session with Edgar. Going forward, I'm just going to showcase to you how you can go about connecting to our various webinars, some of the trainings that we have on schedule for you, and also some of the offers that just might be, suitable for your pocket-friendly planning of your education. So going forward, I'm going into netcomlearning.com. Once you go here, obviously today it's all about Microsoft. So just click on Microsoft and you will be able to get onto the vendor page. We have a whole list of courses that you will be able to access from here. You also have details pertaining to the certification path, extra that might help you in going forward. So some of the courses that I feel would be suitable considering the training that you've, or rather the participation on the webinar that you just did, would be the DP300. And the best way to go about checking out where you can find this course is going onto the schedules. If you click on the schedules, you have a whole plethora of offerings here. I type out Microsoft, I choose this, and just give me a minute and it's loading out. You have a whole listing of our schedules out here. Going into Microsoft SQL, right? And the first suggestion that was suggested by Edgar would be the DP300. This is a very fundamental training, and this just might help you get into the stream of things. Go ahead, register for yourself. You have various schedules here. We also have a DA100, which is analyzing data. If you're more inclined towards the analytics aspect of it, this just might be suitable for you. The other couple of things that I feel that just might be helpful to you is something called as Learning Passport. This is more for people who have a whole set of trainings that they would like to complete over the year. This gives you various access. You can plan to do your training either in the number of days or pay towards number of hours or number of courses that you plan to take. You have various options here, go for it. One of the best options that I feel would be viable for you, all of y'all, would be something called as NetCom Unlimited. Basically, if you have an enterprise or if you're part of a corporate structure and you have more than 2 to 3 people who are interested in actually purchasing a subscription, this will make more sense for you. You're literally paying for just one training and having a 1-year complete access to all the VILT options available on NetCom Limited. Please do go through these, and I hope this will be of help to you. One of the things that has been given to you as a ready reckoner is, if you look into your handouts, is a list of courses that are associated towards data and AI. The course links are mentioned here. We also have various webinars that have been scheduled in the upcoming months. Access to that information also given here. So please feel free to use them and register. Back to you, Leela.
Thank you so much. Okay, now we are going to go ahead and jump right into our question and answer session. Let me pull up our little question panel so that I can see that, and go ahead and put my screen visible again. Showing my screen. There we go. There. Awesome. So we're going to jump right into our question and answer. Our first question that we have today is, how different is SQL on Microsoft SQL Server than on Oracle or BMI DB2?
That's a great question. To use an analogy, in the United States, we speak English a certain way. But if we were to go to, let's say, Scotland, they also speak English, but they speak with a different dialect. So we would easily be able to understand them, but there might be some words they would use that we would not understand. SQL is not proprietary, nobody owns it, but vendors like Microsoft and IBM and Oracle, they all have their own implementation of SQL. Since SQL is governed by the American National Standards Institute, a lot of it's the same across platforms, but there are some statements and some operators that are unique to each platform. Just like Dodge and Chevy make pickup trucks and they try to outdo each other, Microsoft has functionality that would be unique to it, and likewise Oracle has. But if you knew SQL because you learned it on Microsoft SQL Server, the learning curve would be shallow if you started working with Oracle. If you knew SQL because you worked with Oracle, the learning curve would be shallow. So it's not very different. So switching from one platform to the next platform wouldn't be much of a challenge.
Wonderful. Let's see, our next question is, and I've been saying it, SQL. Obviously, I don't use this, so SQL. Is SQL a complete programming language like Visual Basic or C#?
SQL, even though they use the word language, it's not a complete programming language. I cannot create standalone applications with SQL. SQL is often embedded and must exist inside something else. So if I was to go in to create, let's say, a web application using Visual Studio, I would go there and I would create an ASP web application, and I would choose my language like Visual Basic or C#. So the application would be created with Visual Basic or C#, but the application might want to have access to data, and that data might be housed inside a Microsoft SQL Server. So embedded inside this web application, there would be periodic places where we would make calls using structured query language. So no, it's not a complete language. We cannot create complete standalone applications. It's always embedded inside something else.
Wonderful. Let's see. It looks like we have one question left so far. So if anybody does have questions, now is the time to get them in. Otherwise, we will wrap up after this next question. What would be the benefit of learning SQL? Doesn't Microsoft have graphic tools that can be constructed or that can construct the SQL statement for me?
Yes, Microsoft and other vendors do have graphical tools that allow you to connect to their environments and without writing any code, build a result set. But the drawback is you're limited to that graphic tool. And that graphic tool can't anticipate every type of nuance that you want. If you wanted to do, let's say, time intelligence, year on year, running totals, there may not be a graphical option to do a running total or a year-by-year comparison or other type of complex SQL statements. So if you don't know how to write SQL code, then you're going to be really limited in the result sets that you can create. And because the result sets are used to actually build reports, it's going to actually hamper other things in the business. You're not going to be able to get the detailed reports and data analysis that you really need to dig into your data and make informed business decisions. So it's going to be really limiting if you don't understand the code.
Wonderful. That is a wonderful and very thorough explanation. It looks like that is all the questions we have right now. So we are going to go ahead and start wrapping up. Before we do finish, we are going to launch a quick poll to find out how many people might be interested in taking some additional training. In addition to our webinar today, we have a lot of informative webinars coming up. So please go to www.netcomlearning.com/webinars/ to register for any of those. We want to thank you all for joining us here with us today. And if you do come up with any additional questions, you can feel free to send them to us at webinar@netcomlearning.com. Thank you so much for joining us, Edgar. And we hope that everybody found today's webinar to be just as informative as we did. And we look forward to seeing you all back here with us very soon. Also, feel free to tell your friends and colleagues about our upcoming webinars and other courses. Once again, thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful day.